This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
We will get Manny Navarro back. There he is.
There, baby.
There he is. Breaking news. Follow Manny on Twitter, by the way, at Manny_Navarro. Shannon Dawson. Apparently, Mario was a big, what's it called? Freestyle guy back in the day. He loved Give Me Tonight. He used to go to the clubs all the time and go see Shannon. So he figured he'd have an offensive coordinator named Shannon
That's
to
right.
kind of move up in the charts, as they say.
Yeah, glad it's over and done with, though. I mean, Shannon Dawson's a name that Bruce Feldman told me about 2 weeks ago as a guy that Mario liked, and I know he was one of the ones that came in and interviewed last week. So it was good that he finally reached a decision. It gives him 3 weeks to come in and implement the offense before spring football. I know it's he coaches an air raid type offense, but in reality, Mario, I think, has said that he's going to run more of a balanced offense, right? And so I think ultimately here, you can expect a more of a spread open offense, more of a pass friendly offense, but at the same time, it's not going to abandon the run. They're still going to run the football.
Yeah, but what I like about this is, from at least initial stuff that we're talking about here, he also realizes that in today's game, it has to evolve. You got to score points, dude. You know what I mean? It's like it's like watching the Heat, and then we got people like, well, maybe we'll go get Russell Westbrook. Oh, that's great. So he can join 2-point shooter Jimmy Butler, 2-point shooter Kyle Lowry, 2-point shooter Bam Adebayo in a 3-point league. Sorry, it doesn't work. Let's not keep adding to your problem that you guys can't score with a fistful of dollars in a whorehouse. So let's get to this. And in college football, brother, defenses don't dominate anymore. They just don't. More often than not, it's making plays in certain points of games and things like that, your defenses. But your offenses need to be explosive in today's, college football. You got to score points. So it's got to be a mix. Yeah, I believe that in heart and soul he wants to run, but I think he also figures, like, look what they did the year before, and then what we did this year. We drastically changed the offense, and we weren't potent enough to hang in there with other games.
Yeah, there's no question. You got to be able to score points. And really, I mean, every team in college football nowadays, you look at the national championship game, 65-7, right? Georgia doesn't run an air raid type offense, but they score a lot of points. And that's the key to it all, is explosion and being able to light up the scoreboard in a lot of different ways. And so, it's another smart guy in college football, guy who's been around the game a long time. I know he's with Geno Smith at West Virginia at one point, when West Virginia had those ridiculous offenses that were putting up 70 points a game or whatever it was. I think the potential's there. The key ultimately in all of this, though, I will tell Miami fans this till I'm blue in the face: go out and get some playmakers, man. Go out and recruit some playmakers. And, I think that little fact that I just spit out about his relationship with Geno Smith, well, guess who Geno Smith's cousin is? Okay, it's the number one receiver in the country this year who goes to Hollywood Chaminade, JJ Smith. So keeping it in the family, so to speak, in terms of a guy that the family's familiar with as far as offensive coordinator. So I think this will help Miami in recruiting the number one receiver in the country in their own backyard.
Okay, now the other thing, he kind of went young with those coordinators, right? On defense and offense.
Doth has been around the game for over 20 years, and so is Guidry. I mean, young in the sense of, they're not in their 60s like Steele,
right,
and those.
Aren't they in their 40s? Aren't these guys in their 40s?
I think Shannon's 50s, early 50s as well, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. I got to look up his age, but he's been around. I know he's been around since the early West Virginia days when they were still pretty good in the early 2000s. So over 20 years at the FBS level. Guidry's same thing. He's been around for over 20 years coaching, McNeese State, Western Kentucky, FAU, all of Marshall, all over the place. So these guys have been around. They're just G5 guys. They're not Power 5 guys. per se in terms of, having come from Power 5 programs like the last couple coordinators were. So, look, bottom line is, man, you got it done. It's over and done with. Miami fans can take solace in that they have an offensive coordinator. Now they just got to go out and fill the rest of the positions. Get the linebackers coach. I think it'll be Jason Taylor. I think if Mario can convince him to take a step up and be on the staff, that he'll do it. I think as far as receivers coach, we'll see who they end up looking at. I know James Coley is the co-offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He coaches wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks. Maybe Miami's able to convince him, or it's Leonard Hankerson, who's with the San Francisco 49ers, a guy who obviously played at Miami and turned out to be pretty good. So, we'll see who we get at those other positions on the assistant staff. But the bottom line is, hey, you know what? Spring football's 3 weeks away. They got the number 7 recruiting class in the country. 15 of those kids are on campus. You got 8 transfers. Let's get this ball rolling, man. Let's start getting towards 2023 and more results on the field.
And probably nothing really to look into, but should there be any concerns that several coaches left in this offseason, or is this just part of the transition of trying to figure out what's your staff?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I said this to you last week. I think, being on the West Coast, having a staff that you set up for over there, for those recruits on the West Coast, right? The guys at the guys that fit Oregon's culture. When you come over to Miami and you bring some of those coaches with you, and you have to hire new guys and be on a coast that you haven't been on in 5 to 6 years, I think you look at some resumes and say, oh, this guy's going to fit great. This guy's going to fit great when you do your first sort of coaching hires. And then you get into the room with them and you figure, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought. And so I think there'll be some more, changes. And is it a bad thing? Not necessarily, because you were 5-7 last year. It didn't work, right? Like, you're not losing guys after a 10 or 11 win season, and they're like, oh, we can't work with this guy. No, it's hey, these guys weren't a good fit. We got to get this right. So I think it's more along those lines than anything else.
Anything on the recruiting side we should know about?
Look, I went and I watched a couple of these kids. I mean, they're just really beginning with the 2024 class in terms of getting commitments and getting guys on board. I think towards March and April, after kids visit on junior day for the first practice on March 4th, you'll probably start to see some commitments and guys that want to pledge to the program. But we're still very early in the process, and part of that is you didn't have an offensive coordinator, right? Like, you had your guy go out really back in December is when they made all these decisions, not recently. They weren't announced till recently, but you were going through that process of, well, who the hell's going to coach, quarterbacks? Who's going to coach receivers? All of those questions are going to be answered now. Those recruits are going to be able to come in, meet those guys, be recruited by those guys. So it's good that they don't have a bunch of commitments right now. And you're like, well, are these coaches even going to want these players? So you have lots of time. You got 10 months until signing day. And if you go out and you take care of business on the field and you play better than you did last year, then you're going to have good players who still want to come here.
By the way, Dawson's 45 years old.
There you go, 45. But I know he's been in it a long, long time. So
yeah, but what I mean is he didn't go out and get old guys like grizzled veterans. He got kind of younger guys that, I think might be, let's just say, hipper to what's going on in college football.
Absolutely.
And something tells me that they've got to have some kind of strength in their recruiting too. Right? There's got to be something there.
Well, Guidry's really good at identifying. Listen, these guys have recruited at the lower levels of college football, right? And so when you don't recruit at, when you're not recruiting for Georgia and Alabama and Michigan and places that are used to getting the 5-star kids, you're used to having to look for qualities in the lower ranked kids, and you're able to identify guys that you think you can turn into better players. And so, and it makes you hungry because you got to fight to get these kids to come to your school, right? So I think from that regard, Guidry, from what my understanding is, he's really good talent evaluator. A lot of the guys that he identified in the transfer portal, 7 of them came in and started for him at Marshall last year, started games for them, and were part of the best, one of the best defenses in the country. And Shannon Dawson, I mean, look, he's been all over the place. He's had good quarterbacks. And he's been around good quarterbacks. I mentioned Geno Smith earlier at Houston. They've had some guys that put up huge numbers. I think his quarterback last year had 40 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, something like that. Some 4-to-1 ratio of touchdowns and interceptions. So, I mean, they find guys that aren't necessarily big name guys that become productive. So I think that's a plus. And Miami, with Mario, he's the elite recruiter anyway. He's the guy that's going to convince the best players to come here. These guys, I think, will be hungrier than their predecessors.
Let's hope so. All right, what are you working on over at the Athletics so folks can check you out, my friend?
Well, lots of coverage on Shannon Dawson will be coming out soon. Stuff that we've been preparing, and I think we will have a lot of recruiting stuff. I'm going to be coming out with my top 12 players to watch in Florida for 2024. That'll be out later this week. A lot of stuff to read. Bruce Feldman and I just put out a story on Lance Guidry. It came out a couple days ago, and it's a pretty in-depth feature on him. You want to check that out, get some more information. We talked to Sunbelt coaches, guys that coached against him in the conference the last 2 years. I talked to one of his former players, and that's just to get their inside take on why he's good at what he does.
There you go. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. And more importantly, subscribe to The Athletic because they do a phenomenal job of coverage every single day. Manny, as always, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you immensely.
All right, thanks.
You got it. There you go. Don't forget, you order over $99, you will get free shipping. So you can get anything and everything with a Canes logo on it. They've also got Inter Miami gear. We've got Inter Miami starting, February 25th, I think it is, against Montreal. So you can get a new kit there. You want to get a new jersey, go cheer on the team. We got Heat gear. You got Marlins gear. We got baseball right around the corner, too, coming up. We got Oki. Yeah, the Panthers are playing right now. You want to get some Panthers stuff? They got all kinds of stuff there. 2511 South University Drive in Davie. If you want to visit it from anywhere in South Florida, get on out there right off of 595. So it's easy in, easy out. And right next to La Spada, you can also have a nice little sub there, too, at the same time. There you go, La Spada, free plug for you guys. Anyway, so get on out there, 2511 South University Drive. And if you can't get there, go online at caneswear.com, and you can check it out for yourself. Order over $99. You will get free shipping anywhere. Jeff and the boys, they ship out right away, so you will get it immediately. That is our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.